Everything's good? Okay, I can begin now. All right. Good morning, everyone. Let's give a few moments rather, to ensure that everything is ship. Testing 1, 2, 3. I can begin. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Olivia, and today we will be taking our pen testing course in cybersecurity. We would begin very shortly, but I just want to ensure that everyone is able to hear me. We're able to communicate very well with our YouTube and even our Google Meet, just that everything is going properly, right? All right, beautiful. So I'll start sharing my screen on the Meet, just so we have the slides down. Have my screen up. All right. Beautiful. Lovely to meet you all once again. My name is Olivia, and today we are going to be taking on the topic of penetration testing, reconnaissance, and VM exploitation, right? Today we'll be taking the topic of, once again, penetration testing, reconnaissance, and VM exploitation. Going on with an understanding, a scope, and a demonstration of how weaknesses can be found in the system, how we can exploit those weaknesses, and how ultimately we can protect our system even better. Moving on. So what is penetration testing? Penetration testing is a simulated automated attack on a system used to find weaknesses and demonstrate weaknesses in our systems. Now the thing with penetration testing is you learn what the system is inconvenienced with, in a sense. More like, for example, if you have a house and with that house, some of the doors don't have proper locks, and anybody can enter, and you on your own come and try to attack, or rather enter your own house, and see what a simulated experience of an attacker would be like. So you find out, okay, yes, these locks on our house do provide an avenue for someone who is maliciously trying to enter into your house can experience. And with that, you know what to do, which is to fix your locks. So that's what penetration testing gives you an idea of. From here, you have simulated attacks that you provide to your own system, and those simulated attacks act like a real attacker, safely but agreed. We will come back to the agreement part of it in a bit, but you are doing it very safely in a controlled manner because it's something you chose to do. Then you find weaknesses. You identify flaws in your system with penetration testing. You find out what type of things are allowed in your system that should typically not be allowed, and find out again ways to improve the defenses based on those weaknesses that you found. With those defenses, now you see real impacts that can and should be fixed. Moving on, why do organizations perform penetration tests? Well, we find weaknesses very early. We already mentioned weaknesses. We will come back to what exactly those weaknesses, like, mean in a second, but before then, we find those weaknesses very early. The lacks that the things your systems lack, you find them very early. You're able to exploit those flaws before the attackers actually even get a chance to. And then you are able to protect your data and systems. You're reducing the breach that your system can have. The kind of things that would have happened would not be able to happen because you've already penetrated into the system and found out the same things that an attacker, a real attacker, would have been able to find out. You can also be able to meet compliance issues with penetration testing because yes, we have things like PCI DSS, HIPAA, that's for health, right, and ISO 27001, right? And you find out the type of things that these frameworks and these compliance measures need and would want you to have in your system. And with those type of things, you are able to properly secure your systems to ensure that you are not failing in any part of those compliance issues, and also to be able to prioritize fixes. Now, you get a clear evidence-based list of what to fix first, because obviously with the penetration testing, I was talking about a house earlier, you find out, okay, your door locks are, all of them are bad, and with those door locks being bad, you know that, okay, yes, the front door is the first thing that you should fix before you start fixing, okay, maybe the toilet door, maybe the room doors. You want to first find out how you can fix your front door so that nobody from outside can come in. And that's how it kind of similarly goes with your system. But let's move on. So for the methodology, you have 5 major stages in our penetration testing methodology. We have planning and scope. You're getting a feel and understanding of what type of system you're coming through. Now, the thing with penetration testing is, assuming you were hired to be a penetration tester, a pen tester in a system. It's not blinking green. It's working. Okay. So assuming you were hired to a company, let's call this company XYZ Corporation, right? And with XYZ Corporation, you are new. You don't know a lot about XYZ Corporation. The first thing you want to do is to understand what type of systems they have. And not even just what type of systems they have, but how far do these systems go? Do they have databases? Do they have things that they want me to do in their cloud services? What type of systems and services do they have? What are the goals that I'm having in this penetration test that I am going forward to do? Then you get into reconnaissance. With reconnaissance, now you learn about the target. You learn about the services working on that target. You learn about the ports that are open, that are unopened, that are closed. You learn about I was talking about cloud services, I was talking about databases. There's a lot of other things. Okay. There's a lot of other things that you can learn with your reconnaissance. We'll come back to reconnaissance in a minute though, but I'm still taking you through the penetration testing methodology. You also have scanning. With scanning now, you map the services to certain flaws that those services could potentially have. And we would actually see that in a minute when we get into a practical aspect of the penetration testing portion of this our whole cybersecurity free training. And after scanning, we get into exploitation. You prove that the weaknesses that exist on your system actually work. You start to try here, try there, do this, do that, and then you start to see what the systems have that you can, well, break into as an agreed penetration tester. And again, I told you we'll come back to the point of agreements and I've forgotten the word, but we'll get back to that in a second. But then there's also reporting. Reporting consists of documenting your findings and your fixes, because not only do you let the company, that's the XYZ Corporation that we were speaking about, not only do you let them know that, okay, we found this exploit, we found this issue with your system, but you also talk to them about mitigations. And we've spoken about mitigations in previous classes, where mitigation is kind of bridging the gap between the problem and the solution, and you bring the solution towards the problem so the problem is fixed. And then during your documentation, you not only let them know the problems you found, but you also let them know the solutions to those problems. So moving on. All right. So we have authorization. That was the beautiful word I was looking for. Authorization and scope are non-negotiable, right? They are non-negotiable. When you start a penetration test, you are hired to do a particular task, which is to break into a system. And while you are breaking into that system, you have to do this under the code of conduct that that company, in this case XYZ Corp, has told you to follow. You do not go outside of the scope that XYZ Corp has told you to do. You cannot start saying, okay, well, they gave me databases to look into. I can't start going into cloud services. I can't start going into open ports, network services. I can't start doing that. That's not my job. That's not what they allowed me to do. I can't go and physically penetrate into their system. I can't go into their company, XYZ Corp, and be like, oh, hey, sorry, I'm a real employee, and then they let me in, and then I'm able to find some exploits they have, some vulnerabilities, which we'll come back to in a second. I can't start going into their company and finding physical vulnerabilities when they didn't ask me to, which is why authorization and scope are non-negotiable. How? We should always get written permission. Okay. If you have a certain agreement with someone and it isn't written, right? You might be in trouble if a legal standpoint comes into it. Because with penetration testers, going outside your scope does put you in a very, very tight position, because now you can be legally sued. You can be legally fined for the actions you went through outside of what you were given permission to do. So you always testing without authorization is illegal. So you always test with what is authorized. You read the fine print, you read the small things that it puts down there, you read everything, you let them know, you let yourself know rather, that this is what I am to do, this is what I am allowed to do, this is what I can do, what I won't do, right? So you leave that, you only what is permitted and acceptable for you to do. Another thing is you stay within the scope. I've already explained this. You test only the agreed systems during the agreed time. Now, with that agreed time thing, sometimes they might tell you, okay, wow, we acknowledge the fact that you are actually a very good penetration tester, but we are giving you 3 months to find out whatever you can about our system. You can exploit our staff, our personnel, you can exploit our systems, you can exploit our databases, but only within 3 months. Anything you do outside of that time period is giving you an illegal standpoint to start doing something malicious, and you do not want to put yourself in such a situation, which is why it is very important to always give these pre-understandings of how penetration testing works. Do you understand? You do not want to put yourself in a space where you are vulnerable to be sued, to be taken to jail. I've had a lot of cases where people did outside of the scope of what they ought to have done, and then they put themselves in trouble. That was unnecessary. It's not something you should do. It's not something you should put yourself into. And then you document everything. You keep a clear record of what was tested and what was found. You make sure that, okay, you touch A, you write, I touch A, you touch B, I touch B, you touch Q, I touch Q. Do you understand? And you put screenshots, you put readily available information for those that are seeing the work at the end of the day, to be able to understand that, yes, this is what you did, this is what you did not do, this is what you could have done but you didn't touch, although you put all this information in your documents and your findings, just to make sure that everything is ship, shop, shape. Again, authorization and scope are non-negotiable. Moving on. So we are in the second concept, the second major concept that we're teaching today, which is reconnaissance. What is reconnaissance? Reconnaissance is basically trying to find out every information that you possibly can about the system. XYZ Corp is our corporation, is our case study for today, right? So with XYZ Corporation, you are interested in finding out what type of things can you see online that's publicly available. What type of things can you see when you actually actively look at their system? What type of things can you find from everywhere and anywhere on the system? What type of things can you see anywhere and everywhere on the system? Before trying to break in, a tester first learns useful information and learns everything useful about that target. That's what reconnaissance basically is. You want to find everything. You go to their LinkedIn pages, the LinkedIn pages of the staff in the system. You go to the Instagram. Can you imagine? The person that developed the system, and I'm giving an example, right? The person that developed the system, he is very proud of his work. He's very proud of the fact that he just learned something new. Look at him raising his shoulders. He just learned something new about C++. Now with that C++, now he's like, wow, thank God for the day. Thank God for the moments that he has spent working on this system. He just learned a new concept about C++. With this C++, he knows how to do SQL, put SQL into his system. He's done this, he's done that, he's bragging. With that braggadocious, movement with yourself, with the system, you are learning information. You are very aware now that the system that they are running on that computer that you are trying to, or rather that company or organization that you're trying to exploit, is involved with C++, is involved with SQL. And where do you learn this from? Instagram. You understand? Somebody's on LinkedIn, he's talking about his posts, he's talking about the things that he's involved with, and you're looking at it and you're just like, you don't know the type of information you're putting out there. And I am in turn collecting. Beautiful. So in this process of reconnaissance, you can get to know information such as IP addresses, domains, and open ports, as well as others. These aren't the only things you can get. There's a lot of other things that you can get with reconnaissance. Let's move on so we can know the two major types of reconnaissance. There's two major types of reconnaissance, which are passive and active reconnaissance. With passive reconnaissance, there's no direct contact between yourself, rather, that is the pseudo attacker, because that's kind of what you can refer to a penetration tester as. There's no direct contact between you, the penetration tester, and the active system that is currently in focus. You go through no direct contact. You go look for publicly available records and websites. Nobody's able to know that you're the one actually looking for it, because you just seem like a normal user. You go into, for example, let's have a bank. Let's come up with a name for a bank. We call this bank abcbank.com. Go to ABC Bank. You go and sign in as a normal bank user, right? You have your normal bank. You're even talking to people that are using abcbank.com. You talk to them like, how is this bank going? They're telling you, oh, can you imagine this bank? Any small thing, they could just charge me. Sorry, any small thing, they will just be charging me. Any small thing, they will be telling me, oh, this, oh, that. Okay, can you imagine? I tried to click this button in my bank. It wasn't working. You pick up on that. You go online, you go search for information about this bank, abcbank.com. You check, oh, what's abcbank.com like? You see Reddit pages, you see Quora pages, you see lots of things, and people are talking about it. People are publicly in it. Very good information, publicly talking about this. Is ready information for anybody to look at. You are not directly interacting with the system. you study the DNS, and we already spoke about DNS in previous classes, where DNS is domain name system, right? And you find out registration data about this public domain. You find out information from there. You read job posts, social media, leaks about this information. You find out, okay, abc.com on Google, abc.com exploits, abc.com issues, abc.com leaks. You find out internal issues that are publicly available. That's the cool part about passive reconnaissance. Everything is outside of the system. You're not actively assigning yourself a role in interacting with the system, and then you leave little to no traces on the target, so they don't know you are trying to exploit them. And then from there we have active reconnaissance. Now, with active reconnaissance, you are more accurate about the kind of information you can find out about the system. The only problem is you're more detectable. You are sending actual traffic to the data. And speaking about traffic, we come back into the concept of firewalls, we come back to the concept of IDS, IPS, which you probably still go back into when you come into defensive cybersecurity, when you come into trying to protect your systems, but you are sending actual information that the system can collect. Now, the system collects it. It's different from whether the owners of the system look at it and understand it, but that's a different thing entirely. But with active, you can scan for open ports and services, which we will get into when we come into the practical. You also query the system directly. You ask it questions, the system answers you. You ask it more questions, it answers you. You ask it, hey, what's your IP address? It gives you an answer. Okay, what ports are open? It gives you an answer. But because you are talking to the system, you could also likely be found out. All right, moving on. What information are we exactly looking for when it comes to penetration testing? And in a sense, yeah, penetration testing does have a secondary name that we just kind of give it, red teaming. You are the ones in charge of, attacking. That's kind of where most people have their understanding of cybersecurity from. They want to be a hacker, but we call it penetration testing when you're definitely going through the ethical path. So what information are we looking at? As a red teamer, as a penetration tester, we're looking for IP addresses, right? We've spoken about that before. Network identifiers that actually locate where that system is, what kind of networks those systems are working with. Domain names, kind of like example.com, abcbank.com, xyz.com, you understand, xyzcorp.com. These type of things are domain names. These domain names, we've already understood from domain name system, DNS, that they are mapped to IP addresses. So from the IP addresses, you're able to get domains. You're also able to get open ports from your IP addresses. You look at the IP address, you scan that network. With scanning the network, you'll find open ports. We will get into the practical part of this just in a minute, so hold on a bit, we'll find that out, right? So open ports are doors into your system. Assuming you have a house and that your house has 26 doors. I don't know what kind of house you have, but assuming your house has 26 doors, and every day you go around your doors trying to find out which ones should you actually just leave open, which ones should you keep locked, right? A lot of them you do just by default keep them locked, but there are some that are just like, okay, well, I want to go into the garden of my house, let me open this door today. You open the door, you step out to your garden, you come back in, you leave the door open. If someone was trying to enter into your house, they will go around your house and find out which of your doors are open. They find out the one towards your garden is open. In fact, your front door is open as well, right? Your back door is also open. And then they say, oh wow, if I go through the front or the back, you might find me. Let me go in through the garden door. Boom, they've already been able to get access into your system. So that's where open ports come into play. We have services. Services include the softwares that are behind those ports, kind of like web, mail, SSH. There's a lot more, but like moving forward, we also have the versions of those services. Assuming you have an SSH, and the SSH version you are looking at is 4.1.2, right? And I find your open port to be port 22. Port 22 is SSH, right? You found the open port. You found the service that works on that port. You found the version 4.1.2, right? Put all of that together. I go online. I go to Google. I'm like, okay, exploits for SSH 4.1.2. It gives me a result. Someone who has already previously tried this and found out that this 4.1.2 of SSH port 22 is exploitable. And I just carry the thing, copy it, and just paste it on the system, on your system. And I've already been able to enter into your system. And we already know that SSH is secure shell. So that means for someone to be able to exploit your secure shell, you're in trouble. Beautiful. Let's move on. You can also find other leads. It's not limited to only these. There are other things you can find, such as users, tech stack, they wrote tech stack here, but like text documents, PHP pages, XML. There's a lot of other things that could be open to you. Moving on. So how does the reconnaissance typically unfold? I mean, we've already spoken about this. You identify a target. You find out who you want to attack. You passively gather all the information you can publicly available. You actively scan the system. Then you start to map the attack surface. Okay, fine. I know what I'm getting myself into. Which ways would I move about trying to get that information? Does that make sense? Let's move on. So reconnaissance in action typically goes the same way we spoke about just now. You start from a target, a domain, an IP, or a host name. A host name typically comes from what type of name your system is called. For a lot of us, if you've downloaded some of the systems that we put up on Google Classroom, you see that your Kali system is typically just called Kali to create another host name, right? You passively look up open and public data. You actively scan the ports, and then you read the results. You scan those results, you spot interesting versions, and you spot interesting information. So moving on to concept 3. With concept 3 now, we're going to look into virtual machine exploitation, which can also be called network exploitation, right? Why is it called network exploitation? Because we are going through your network. Not only are we going through your network, we are also going through the machines and the systems and the ports and the protocols and everything concerned with your system getting into your system. Beautiful. So what's a vulnerability? A vulnerability is a weakness in your system that could let an attacker in. Remember when we were talking about the garden door that was open? That's a vulnerability. You are vulnerable to someone else trying to actively enter into your system. Beautiful. So the key idea is that the vulnerability is the weakness itself. It's the thing that is exposing you when something could or should maybe potentially happen, right? Examples include outdated software, service configured with weak settings, or a password that is easily guessed. Your password is 1234. Are you not in trouble? You understand? As a software engineer, as a penetration tester rather. So I was thinking about software engineer. As a penetration tester, are you not in trouble if your password is 1234? But let's move on. So what is now an exploit? Because obviously we've spoken about exploits, spoken about vulnerabilities, but what is an exploit? An exploit is a technique, a code, or a method used to take advantage of that weakness that your system has, of that vulnerability that is existent in your system. The door is open, right? What the exploit is me trying to find out how I can enter into it. And not even just me trying to find out, me actually using the methods I know in my head to enter into it. What, in a sense, that exploit is turning the handle of the door and entering. You understand? In fact, if your lock was even bad, me pick locking it is the exploit. Moving on, okay, an exploitation is using the exploit against the vulnerable system. So let's understand virtual machine exploitation. This is typically how it goes. You have the targets, you have the weakness, which is the vulnerability, you have an exploit, right? The method used to enter into the system, and then you get a foothold into the system, your initial access, your first step into that system, and how you are able to move from there and do other crazy things. Okay, so from target to foothold, what do we mean by that? From how do we start to how am I in, right? Beautiful. You first identify the virtual machine that you are going to, be attacking, and all of this is within the authorized and the authorization and then the scope that we already mentioned earlier. That is non-negotiable. I have said it a lot. It is very important that you know what you should and should not be able to do. But fine, you know what you can do now. Next thing is to perform a reconnaissance, to perform a scanning of the system. Okay, well, within what I can do, these are the things I can find, these are the things I can do, these are the things I can get from the system. I'm not getting anything yet, but I can understand what I can potentially get. And with more knowledge and with more practice, you'll be able to just look at the system and perform a reconnaissance and already be able to know what path you will be able to follow to get to the foothold that you're looking for, the exploitation point of it. So from after the reconnaissance, you're able to spot vulnerabilities, that's spotting weaknesses, interesting flaws that system has, and that system is, accessible to. You're able to understand those type of things. From finding those weaknesses, you then get exploits, that is using the right method to, attack the weaknesses, to attack and exploit. I don't want to use the word exploit, that's why I use attack, but to attack the flaws that the system has. From there, you are able to gain access using those exploits. You understand how everything is bridging into the next point and how you are all able to move on from there. From getting the exploits, you can then move into getting access, because the exploits, using them in an exploitation manner, you're able to get access, which is then obtaining the foothold. From there, you have your post-exploitation. What's post-exploitation? We already mentioned this before. This is recording, this is documenting, this is keeping track of everything you've done from point 1 to point 5 and even the point 6. Okay, I did this, I found the VM, I know that this is the IP address that I'm looking for, I know that this is the domain abcbank.com, I know that these are the ports I was able to do it. How was I able to find that? I used this scan, I did this, I did that, I did this. Everything comes, post-exploitation. Okay, so from there, we have VM exploitation in action. We've already spoken about this, so let's talk about it really quickly. You identify virtual machines, you scan and perform reconnaissance on that machine. You find the flaws, the vulnerabilities, the weaknesses that system has. From there, you exploit it. You start to attack. You do this, you do that, you understand? There's a lot you can do in this point. But before you can even get to that, you need this to be very sturdy, so that everything you can do when it comes to the exploitation portion of it, you are well versed with this system. And then from there, you explain the result, which is the documenting and the post-exploitation part of it. So what to remember from today? We're not done with the class, obviously, but these are the slide aspects of it. From here now, we're moving on to practical aspects of actually exploiting a virtual machine, right? What to remember from this, slide that we've been able to do? Penetration testing has to be authorized testing. Don't go and do what they did not send you. Don't go and do what they did not send you, because you will be the one putting yourself in trouble. And the company that you think will be able to back you up will not, because they did not ask you to do X, Y, Z. You went ahead to help them, or even if you wanted to be malicious with it, you went ahead to be malicious. So whatever the legal obstructions are for such actions will be on your head to carry out, right? So you obviously have to do with permission. Reconnaissance always comes first. You always make sure you're able to check out the ports, the IP number, IP addresses, the other information you can grab out. Sometimes recon doesn't take too long. Sometimes it takes a very long time, depending on the type of system you're trying to exploit. Vulnerability is not the same as exploitation. Vulnerability is not the same as exploitation. Why? Because the weakness is not the same as the method that is used to trigger that weakness. There are different weaknesses that we can find in a system, but we can find exploitation methods that can, break into that weakness. Beautiful. So exploitation gives you access. With the exploitation giving you access, this is just a recap once again. Exploitation giving you access is just, okay, wow, I've done this. I see a door open, but it's not open fully. I know I have to pick the lock, so I start looking for how to pick the lock. Should I use a hairpin? Should I use like an actual lock picker? What kind of machines can I use? What kind of tools rather can I use to be able to exploit it? But once you are finally able to exploit it, you gain access into the door. You open the door, you go steal whatever you want to steal. You leave the door, you go like as if nothing happened. Beautiful. Stay in scope always. These two are very similar points together. Note it. Stay in scope always, even when you're trying to enter the door. You understand? I told you the house that we're talking about in this simulation is 26 doors in the house. As you're trying to open the garden door, you now say, oh, wow, but this door too sharp beside me looks like as if I can crack it. Let me just try. Maybe this one is giving me some issue. You will be in trouble. You don't want to put yourself in that kind of situation. Document and learn. Your documentations will always help you, because even in the future, when you have another work to do, when you have another thing to do that might be similar to what you did before, and you go back and you check on what you've done before, it will be very, very helpful. I always document even just my learning process. I've had this book for like over a year now, and everything I've learned so far with cybersecurity, I've been able to write it down. Okay, they're teaching us a virtual machine exploitation. This is step one. Step one, I write this. Step two, I write that. Step three, you understand? And I'm writing it all down, and it's all here in this book, which is why it is very important for you to document not only just your findings. I mean, I've grown to properly understand how documentation helps for later in the future, because even some of the notes that I've written last year are helping me today. So I urge you now, in preparation for the next set of things we're going to start to learn, to get out your notes, write down every command that we go through, and not just the command, but also an explanation, maybe a brief one. Okay, if you do this, it would help you with this, of what each command and each method that we go through will do. The way I write mine is kind of like, okay, on the terminal you do this, on the terminal you do that, in a browser you do this, in a browser you do that. I write those type of things, and I'm just saying that because of the next steps that we're about to take that will follow. So follow me as I'm following myself. So let's move on to the bless me. Let's move on to the exploitation aspects of this. So for those of you on YouTube, let me stand up and say this. For those of you on YouTube, hello, nice to see you. If you have your, and not just YouTube, also for those of you watching the recording of this video, if you have your Kali, your VirtualBox, and your CodeBox installed, just as I've already sent on the Google Classroom, please turn everything on, because I'll follow you through how we'll do that. But get ready to turn everything on, because we are going to be exploiting CodeBox as a virtual machine using our Kali system. Now, how does our Kali system simulate this attack? It works this way. Imagine you want to talk to a certain system. That system, we've created some examples before, abcbank.com. abcbank.com is working with port 80, which is HTTP. So it's http://abcbank.com. With that port 80 now, it's not just like, on its own. It didn't just create itself. It was created somewhere. Where is it created? It's created on a virtual machine. A lot of the times, in fact, maybe 90% of the systems that we have currently working in like the world are running on Linux machines. because you have a lot more freedom to do whatever you want on Linux machines. So you're working on things like Kali, things like Ubuntu, right? And that's what CodeBox is. Now I know someone even asked me on the classroom that, okay, well, they tried, turning it on, and with turning it on, it was asking them for login details. You're not supposed to have the login details, right? You even having that virtual machine is quite a, it's quite a stretch, but it's a leg, it's a, let me calm down. It's a, I forgot what I was trying to say. It's a, I'm so sorry, but it's kind of something we shouldn't have, but in a real world scenario, we should be able to get information from it, from the IP address that we'll be able to get. And how can we know that that IP address is exploitable? Because we have them on the same system. And I mentioned expressly on the Google Classroom that, look, both the CodeBox and your Kali system should be unbridged. If you're having any issue with bridge, we might be able to solve it after the class, but you'll see that in a second. So let's move on to our system and be able to see how we can properly Okay, so for those of us on the Google Meet, can I get a thumbs up to see whether you're following me? All right, I see one. Okay. Okay. I don't want to turn into the camera. Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to exploiting. Okay. So if you have your virtual box up and running, please turn it on. This is mine over here. I always keep mine in my dashboard because I use it very often. Okay. Let me make sure that you guys can still see me. All right. Okay. So I mentioned how we should have them both unbridged. And I'm going to show you that before we even begin our exploitation, right? With this now, I'm going to right click. This is the Kali version that I'm going to be using. This is my clone, right? And then this is my code box that we'll be using. I'll right click this, I'll click settings just to ensure. You always want to ensure that they're on the same network, because it's very possible you could turn on your machine and then find out, oh wow, I wasn't even on the same network. So you go back to network. I see my Kali is unbridged. I'll close that out. I'll right click also on CodeBox, get into settings, over here at network. You see network, there's plenty adapters, but the rest of them are unenabled. So with this first one that's enabled, I also attach it to bridge. If you click the drop down, assuming yours is on NAT, because typically it comes by default on NAT, you click this drop down, you click the bridge adapter, and then you're right here. Now before we move out of this particular page, mind you, this is the CodeBox virtual machine. I want you to note this information.
Sorry, ma'am. Can I ask a question, ma'am?
Yes, you can.
So please, what is the difference between NAT, host, and bridge?
Okay. So with NAT, host, and bridge, yeah, NAT typically works for systems within the same virtual box, right? Bridge is for everyone online. It's just open. right? It's not a very thorough explanation. Bridge is for, sorry, oh my god, this is for, sorry, 1 second. NAT is everyone within the same virtual machine. Bridge is everyone within the same physical network. Then host only is just your system. Does that make sense? Who asked the question? I'm so sorry.
Yes, it's higher. Yes, thank you.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes, I understand. Understood now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry, but thank you for the question. I really appreciate that. Please, anyone else who has a question should please raise your hand first, so that, especially for those of you on the meet, so that I know to come back into the class to make sure I can get your name, right? All right. So we were talking about MAC address, right? Over here, still on this cold box. And I told you we moved it to bridge. But that's the thing. In our first classes, we spoke about MAC addresses, we spoke about IP addresses, and everybody's IP address kind of changes every now and again. I'm even very grateful to you, Aya, because you spoke about the difference in NAT, difference in bridge and host only and all these type of things. And within those three things, and there's even more as we can see, your IP address can potentially change because they start to move from one network to a different type of network entirely. And because of that, you need to be able to still find out what your system has that is identifiable to just your system. That's what a MAC address is. It is only me in this world only this code box, yeah, has the 0800288B as a MAC address, right? Other people can have a different, if I check my own system's MAC address, I don't want to show you my own system's MAC address for somebody wants to do something malicious to my own MAC address. But my own personal MAC address for my main system is different from the MAC address of my code box on my virtual machine, different from the MAC address of the Kali Linux on my virtual machine, and different from others all around the world. Do you understand? But because we are all using the same code box machine, and it has been copied for all of us, and I've sent it to you on Google Classroom, we all have the same MAC address, it's the same system, 0800278B7988, right? I want us to note this so that later on when we try something, we'll be able to identify that this is code box that we're looking at. We are going to be going into that very soon, but I hope you're able to understand this network aspect of this. Okay, let's click OK. Now that I know that they are both on bridged, I'll double click them both. I'll double click them to begin our system. See, they're powering up. Let's give it a second. Just give me 1 second to make sure that they both get up. They shouldn't take too long to get up. Thing is my Kali. Kali's turning up. My Kali boots. And I should have my code box over here as well. Turning on. It's going through its own processes and all that. Please ignore all of this information that's coming up. It's It's how it turns on. But thank God we're just saying, okay. Now, if at any point you're not able to fully follow with the class, please let me know. But there's some, there's some things that I will just tell you, come back to the class at the end of the recording and try it once again. If you're having serious issues, please contact us on the WhatsApp group chat or on the Google Meet. I will definitely be able to answer any of the questions. So let's just finish. Let me see what's going on with my Kali. Kali's signing off. Kali's up. Okay. Just one sec. Okay. I think by now the code box should also be up. Still taking a little minutes, but until then, let's go back to our Kali. I've already set my Kali up. I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to, but I have the default starting system. I have my Kali as my username because that's the user I'm working into, and I have my password in. Network. Then your network I could connect to, that would be much better. Airtel. To stop this. Airtel. Oh. Okay. Let me go back to my virtual machines. Okay. The code box is up and running because I know I can see this code box easy login. And then my Kali is up and running because it's its homepage. Let me make sure that you guys can hear me on the Google Classroom. As a Classroom meets. It's reconnecting forever. But regardless, I can still proceed. So let's begin. We're going to open up our terminal here in our Kali. Let this thing come back up. Boom. We're going to open up our terminal, and our terminal is typically pasted up. Our terminal is up here, but let me just get one word for something. Okay. So I understand that some of you might be having an issue trying to enter into the Kali system, but the password for Kali is Kali, K-A-L-I. No capitals, no small. Sorry, no capitals, all small, but it's just Kali. K-A-L-I. Yeah. I want to see if this class is still. Oh Lord, if I reload this page, they might go. Okay. The password is K-A-L-I, Kali. Are you with me? Alright. So over here at our top left, we have this black box here. This is our terminal emulator We use it for command line commands and everything else that we're going to type that is directly interacting with our system. So click this to begin so that we can start exploiting this system over here, right? We are both on the same network, so we should both be able to communicate together. How do I begin? The first thing we're going to do is definitely, as we had said before, reconnaissance. What do I want to start with? This is what I'm going to start with. There's other ways to begin, but I like going through this route because it gives us exactly the information we need, not too much info. We'll start with IPA. What is IPA? IPA is telling you, you're asking for your IP address. You're querying the system asking you for your IP address. And with this Ethernet 0 over here, I can see that my IP address currently is 192.168.1.19. You might have a different IP address because we are all on different networks right now. Unless maybe you're on the same network as I am, and that's a different thing for those of us that are physically here in the class. But if you try IPA or IPADDR, right, you get the same information. IPA is obviously shorter, so I prefer going through this route. And I get my IP address when I look at this number 2. I'm not looking for the loop back address, not this LO, the ETH0 or ETH1 or ETH2, depending on what your system is configured to. But if you're following me, the way I'm going through it, you should have only ETH0. And with that ETH0, this is my IP address. It will definitely differ from yours. But let's keep going, right? Let's clear my screen. I've mentally noted my own IP address, but let's move on. We want to be able to scan our network. We want to use a command line network scanning tool that will discover all that IP before devices on our local area network. All the systems that are available here for us in the same system, that's my own personal laptop, right? And we're using it in command line version. What we would use is ARP scan. So how we start off with that, we're going to use administrative privileges, sudo ARP-scan-L. I prefer using this way because it's much faster. It gives us the information very cleanly, not too much information, but just exactly what we need, the IP addresses and the MAC addresses of our system. So if I click enter, and because we are using the sudo command, which is for administrative privileges, and we click Kali, which is my password, you can't see because they like to hide the information, but I've already clicked Kali and I click enter, I see the information about my system, my system's networks. The -L is supposed to inform the ARP scan that, it's scanning for only local network interfaces. And remember earlier when I was telling you about MAC address and I was telling you 080027 something something 88, right? If we can look down here, we see that same MAC address. So we can assume now, and it's not even an assumption because we can actually very well clarify that this MAC address that we had previously seen was connected to CodeBox is connected to this IP address. What we have currently done with this command is we've been able to look at our own MAC address and our own IP address, and we said this IP address, anybody who's within the same network of this IP address, tell me all the information about them concerning their IP address and their MAC address, right? Beautiful. I told you, we saw earlier that my own personal address is 19.1.1.19, and then the IP address of our code box is .1.18. And we will need this information later. So I'm going to copy this. Ctrl-Shift-C to copy it, or you can right-click the selection and copy the selection, right? I prefer using Ctrl-Shift-C So if I highlight something and I'm telling you I'm copying it and it just copies, I use Ctrl+Shift+C. So for a VM, you can definitely still check the MAC address with the same way we had previously done to be able to map it to his ARP scan. And again, the ARP scan is a tool that we are using for network scanning. I hope we're all good. Let me check the classroom once again. And I have to reload this classroom because it seems my network is lost. I'm sorry, is there anyone in the classroom? I said classroom, I keep saying classroom. A Meet that is able to hear me? You can hear me, right? Okay, because I'm seeing you lost your network connection. But can you see my screen as well?
Yes, I can see while you're running sudo to get all those IP.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you. So after checking that information about the cold box virtual machine IP address, we can begin not exploit yet, but we can begin properly reconning our system, like getting more information about the system. And how do we get more information about the system? Let's scan that particular network. How do we scan it? We're going to use a network scanning tool. Let me type it out to you guys properly. Sorry, I've already done this before, so it's kind of in highlights, but let me type it properly. Nmap is a network mapping tool, kind of like how ARP scan is a network scanning tool, right? So with Nmap, we are mapping our IP address to a port number, and for us to specify that we want to map it to a port number, we're going to use this -p- space. We also want to map it to the service version. We'll do -s capital V. So we are mapping this IP address that we'll type very shortly, our port number, and then the service version. There are other things you can use Nmap to do. You can even do -T4, which is going to specify the speed at which it's going to go along the getting that. But for right now, it's not very necessary to go into the nooks and crannies of Nmap and then its capabilities. All we need are the port numbers and the service versions that it allows for those port numbers. So let's write our IP address 192.168.1.18, right? And again, I urge you all to write down every single command that I'm writing, because it's important to have this information. You don't know when next you'll be able to get it the same exact way that I'm writing it down, right? So with this port service version, I'm going to click enter. I think someone has raised their hand. Hi Samuel, I'm with you.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Please, I don't have a question. I just wanted to ask whether the class is being recorded, or
Yes.
I didn't join it today, so I could get.
It's being recorded.
Yes, please.
It is.
All right, sure. Thank you so much.
It's being recorded on YouTube, and we'll be able to drop it on the drive for everyone to be able to collect later.
Okay, please. Okay. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for joining the class, but please don't leave the class just because it's being recorded, because there will definitely be.
Of course, I will.
Yes, of course. All right. Okay, so I started a network mapping scan on this IP address particularly. The thing with this is it might take a little bit of time. So let us give it just a little bit so we can see the type of things we're able to get. After here, we would notice the open ports and then also the versions that those ports use, because maybe we can get certain open ports and then there's already an exploit that's readily available for that. And beautiful, we have it open here. We see there are two open ports. There's TCP and HTTP. The state is they're both open. Port 80 is open. Port 4512 is open. 4512 resides as SSH for this system. 80 is for their HTTP. We see that the HTTP is running an Apache 2.4.18 and it's using an Ubuntu system, which is already a very good indicator for us. Because once we see that, Ubuntu sign, we're like, oh yeah, this is something we are versed with, this is something we're using, this is something we're understanding of. Because currently we are working with an Ubuntu system, a Kali Linux Ubuntu system. And then the OpenSSH, HTTP is for the web service. With the OpenSSH, this is where we can start getting more access into the system. And we see that this one is working with an Ubuntu Linux, which is still something we are comfortable with, something we are using. Once again, we see our MAC address. But these are the two major things we want to focus on, right? Because we know we are using an HTTP service, what are we going to do? We're going to open our browser right here. Let's open our browser. So with this browser now, again, we already know that HTTP is running. So what would I do? I'll do http://192.168.1.18. I know that's the IP address. The 1.18. And we put the IP address down. Are you guys with me?
Okay. Yes, we're with you.
Thank you. So now that I have this here, let's click enter and see what that particular code box has in store for us. I already see up here that there's some code box information, so we know that we're able to enter into the machine. We put in the IP address and we're seeing, okay, the code box is here. Welcome to code box, a machine designed by whoever this is, Cold. I'm seeing a Twitter account down here, Cold. It's a very simple machine to solve, with several ways to escalate privileges, which serves to reinforce concepts. Without further ado, good luck and enjoy. Right? Okay. I see information. See more information. I want to understand why this warning is showing down here. It's not supposed to show you warning. This is quite common and not fatal. Connection is refused. I want to reload it so that it wouldn't show me that. There's something supposed to be here, but I think it's my network that's giving me this issue. Regardless, I want you to understand that this particular system is currently being hosted on WordPress, right? It's being hosted on WordPress, and that's what's supposed to show down here. I'm not sure if anyone else of you are having this issue, but if you look down here, we see some metadata, we see login, entries, RSS, comments, RSS, WordPress.org. Over here, it's supposed to show us that, okay, WordPress is what is powering this system. And with WordPress, we can actually control click, so it's open a new tab and show us what's here. Over here, we see more information about WordPress. WordPress is a content management system that is used to build, to publish, and to manage websites. So this code guy has been able to create a virtual machine, a web page, a virtual machine web page using WordPress, right? You see it over here. It's a publishing platform for multiple websites, from creators, small businesses to enterprises. It does a lot of things. But knowing fully well that we're using WordPress, we might have some exploits that are specific to WordPress. Before we even go there anyways, let's right click on this machine, on this page rather, and view the page source to see whether we can find some exploits that would be hidden in the page sources. Because some people might keep notes. Look at this. Somebody will write a note over here. Somebody writes another note, comment some things out. But if we search through, we're not able to see any information, and that's already okay. But it is a rule of thumb to always check the page source and inspect the page so that you are able to just confirm that, okay, at least there's nothing there that you missed out on. I like doing that just to, even if I know there's nothing there, I still want to check just to make sure I didn't miss out on anything. If you wanted to go back again, you just right click on the page and then view page source. Beautiful. So because we've already understood that the system is working on WordPress, we can actually go back to our terminal, knowing fully well that WordPress, I'm opening a new tab using Ctrl+Shift+T, or you can come over to Session and click New Tab, right? This was the tab I was using before over here, and I just created a new one. I'll make it bigger so you can all see my screen well. Knowing fully well that there is a scanning system already available for WordPress. And what's that scanning system called? It's called WP Scan, WordPress Scan, right? With WordPress Scan, we want to check out that system. What are we going to do? We're going to write down the URL using --URL and then 192.168.1.18, right? And from here, we're just going to click enter, let it be scanning, and let's see what information that can come out of WordPress's scan of this particular IP, right? It's going through it. And before we're able to let this thing finish, I'm going to create once again a new tab using Ctrl+Shift+T. I create this new tab. So the WordPress is doing its own thing. We initially even had our network scanning over here. So right here now, what am I going to do? I want to iterate through, and I don't know if any of you are conversant with the meaning of iterate, but I want to go through the IP address that we currently have to see what other websites and I say websites, what other files might exist on this particular system, because a hosted website is being hosted on a system. And what's a system? A system just consists of folders filled with files. So I want to go through this IP address and say, okay, hey, IP address, I know you belong to a system, right? So what folders and what files do you have within yourself that I can use to see what other information I can get? I'll come over to the terminal. What would I do at the terminal? I'm going to use a new tool that we haven't mentioned yet, but it's called FUF, F-F-U-F, File Faster U-Fools. That's what it's called, right? FFUF-U. I'm going to specify the URL, http://192.168.1.18. Ensure you are using your own IP address that we have previously gotten using our ARP scan. Then we do /fuzz. Now this fuzz that we're adding to the end of our IP is to specify where we are trying to find information from. Like, where in the IP address are we trying to change? If I did 192.168.1.fuzz, the place where I put fuzz is where we are going to use the -w word list, because dash W means word list, dash U is for URL, dash W means word list, where we are going to be changing all the information that we find in that word list to whatever fuzz is. So we don't want to do, dot one dot fuzz. We're doing dot 1.18 slash fuzz / fuzz. So let me continue with this anyway, so you can see the full thing. Slash USR, and this exists on all of our systems, especially for all of us that have this Kali Linux already up. Slash share, slash USR, not USER, it's not user, it's USR, right? Slash USR, slash share, slash word lists. It's in plural. It's multiple there. And I want to show you something really quickly before I continue. A quick way to know whether you're doing something right or you're doing something wrong. If I only wrote word list and I continue to do slash, you see that everything here changes from being in bold to being in not bold. You understand? It's no longer in bold. That's how you know you're not doing something right when it comes to a file that already exists on your system. So if I move back, you see it's back in bold. That's because I'm currently doing the right thing. If I'm continuing, let me show you it again. If I write RD and it's no longer in bold, you know you're already doing the wrong thing, because this does not exist as a file in your system. But if it's in bold, your system understands that it's something it recognizes. Now we're going to use dirb. What is dirb? Directory burster. We're going to replace every single, we're going to replace that fuzz with everything in this common, let me write it, common.txt. Every single file, every single information in this common.txt, we need to take our fuzz. If A is in common.txt, write A, remove A. If A does not give us information, we put B. If B does not put information, we remove it, to put C, and so on and so forth. And I just want to click it enter like this because it's going to give us a lot of information, right? I'm going to reduce this so that we can, oh Lord Jesus Christ. Hello. This is quite, I feel like I'm oh, okay. But it gave me too much information. I don't like this. You understand? It gave me way too much information. I want something more direct to what exactly I'm trying to find out. So what do? I start to filter for a specific size, a specific information. I don't want it to give me all the information. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do dash, where is it? 12 dash U fuzz, yes. Yes, our share word list common.txt. I'm going to copy the same information, and because I can tell that information with sizes that are not, these ones are normal WP contents. You see this one 317, 318, 315, where lots of these come with, random sizes. No, this one is still normal. This is still normal. I don't like this. Or see 277. No, I don't like this. This doesn't look right. I'm seeing too many errors. See them. Error. That means they didn't agree with me. And I'm kind of looking for how to filter out a lot of those things. I might not be able to filter everything out, but I can filter for everything that has the size of 277 because of what I've previously seen. I see some of them have normal size. See WP admin. Where's that one that I just saw just now? That's it. Server status 277. I don't think I need that. It's a 403. Because it's so big, it's hard to move through them. It has a status code of 403. Now, in another case, you might be able to just comfortably leave it this way, but I don't want these things to show up I'm not interested in it. I think hidden is important. It has a normal size. Even this one that's blank is kind of important. But I don't think this is important. HC.wda is forbidden, so I don't think I can currently access those. So I'm going to be able to filter for the size that those ones come in, and they all come in the size 277. Once again, let me just confirm that I wrote everything correctly. FFUF-U http://192.168.1.1.8/wordlist/derb/wordlist//fs277. So let's click enter. Just write again. -fs277. I'll click enter and I'll wait for the job to complete. So as of right now, it should only give me information about the ones that are truly important to my system. And I see already hidden has come out, index.php has come out. I see WP admin includes contents, XML, RPC, and .php. This gives me an idea of what my system is currently using, and I know that I can easily go check my system now. But before I even go and check my web browser, but before I go check that, let's go back to the what's it called, WP scan that we saw earlier, and let's see what we can find. Right over here, I see interesting findings, headings. XML RPC seems to be enabled. Okay. Aggressive detection. Okay. README found. Okay. Let's move on. I see a version over here that's been identified and is insecure. This is very important to go check out. We could actually copy this and go Ctrl+Shift+C to copy, or right click. We could copy this. Oopsie. Copy this, open a new tab, paste it in, and write exploits. Let's see if we're able to find an exploit within this system. And not to waste any more time, but the exploits that could exist here are not particularly relevant to this system. But I do want to show you that in a different case, maybe you would have an actual version that, you know, if you go check it out, you check out this, you write the system, you write the version, you write the particular version that exists, write exploits, you might be able to see. And even this one you're seeing is affected by multiple security flaws, including cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, privilege escalation bugs, and so on and so forth. And these are things that we would and could go into later, but to nip it at the bud, it's not something that will be relevant for this particular lab research lab report. So let's not go into it, but I wanted to show you that that's something you could do. Going back though, since we've not been able to find any more useful information, because if you look through, there's not really anything else, we would want to try something else. But before we can try that thing, let's go to what we were doing before, which is maybe trying to find something in this hidden file. Ctrl+Shift+C. And what we did earlier, right, was every single information in this command.txt is being substituted for this fuzz. So if we remove fuzz and put hidden, we should find information about 192.168.1.18/hidden. So let's go and check it now. Going back, we're going to do, let me duplicate this page. So we still have the page there. Duplicate the tab. Here, we'll click it and we'll do /hidden. Enter. Wow, we got information. As I told you, we are just removing that information, the first information, and putting things from that word list. Here we see urgent, cold. You change Hugo's password. When you can send it to him, when you can send it to him, so this is bad grammar. When you can send it to him so he can continue uploading his articles, Philip. And right off the bat, I see three very beautiful informations, right? What do I see? I see code. Yet somebody named Philip is talking to code. It says you change Hugo's password. So Hugo is already another person on the system. And then I see this other person, Philip. And now with my knowledge of penetration testing and just attacking in general, I understand that for you to be able to change someone else's password, you must have certain administrative privileges. So I'm assuming that Code is possibly an admin. Maybe he's not fully admin, but like he has certain privileged rights. So let's pick and get information from this Code. And if you remember, even when we began, we were able to see, okay, the code box is here, Sir Hot on the code box is here. I'm just seeing information about code. Look at this, designed by code. So I'm like, this code might be somebody important. Let's go check out the information we can get from code. Moving back to the previous thing we did before, not over here because we're done with the first, we were able to get one information. Let's go down that line of path, down that line of information, come back here, and we'll just use the same scan we did before, where we did wp scan --url 192.168.1.18, and then we're going to try a username of code. Now, because I've tried this before, I'm trying to save a bit more time, right? And I'm like, well, if we do only code, they'll give us information about code. Do you get? So we can even click it, give us information about code. The only thing is the information it will give us would still require us to get password, because that's really what we want. We want to get code's password. And how can we get his password? We can get his password by trying to crack it, can't we? You can try to crack his password. Let's see how long this will take before, okay, beautiful. We haven't even gotten to the password cracking, but this one has been able to properly go all the way. We still get very similar information to what we did before, but now let's see if we can find any differences. Everything is still pretty much the same. So I'm like, okay, how can we find a password that would be like, giving us more information about this code guy? Because all we've done right now is still scan that same network we did before with only codes, that username as, proper information. So what do? I'll go back. I'll tell it, you know what? I want you to enumerate this information. So I do enumerate. Go deep into it. List all the items that are involved with this code. -- enumerate. This might take a bit more time. Code, I'm so sorry. Hey, but I hope you guys are following me.
Yeah, we are following and enjoying the class as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, I just need a water break. Okay. You're seeing this is taking some more time than it did before. Why? Because we told it to enumerate. And I already mentioned that enumerating is listing, or going through everything one by one by one by one. And this is gonna take some time. But let's see. Give it a few seconds, see if we can get anything new. I'm seeing plain brute forcing attachment IDs. This thing will move much faster so that we can get, okay. All right, beautiful. So using the enumerates, mind you, without enumerates, we honestly weren't able to get any information about even the code, even though code was being mentioned, right? But using the enumerates option now, using the enumerates option now, we're getting more information about this code user and also even other users we saw before. So let's scroll down a little. Let me reduce it so we can see more. Scroll down a little. We see users identified, the code in person found by our research generator. We see Hugo, just as we saw earlier in the hidden page. We see codes, okay, C0LDD. Please, C0LDD. I kept making this mistake when I was trying to personally exploit it, and I was writing CO, but C0, right? And then we see Philip. I said, okay, wow, well, we've seen these three users previously, so it's interesting to look at all of these type of things again. But now we want to be able to see whether we can even find a password. So with finding this password now, let's come over here and then do -P. What's this -P for? It's for specifying a word list. Remember we used word lists before earlier when we were trying to go with forth, when we're trying to force through this IP address. We will now come over here and then specify a new word list for the password cracking. Now, for a lot of you, you actually haven't been able to open this file before, but let me first write it down so you know what exactly I'm trying to do. Still in that same vein that we had used before, let me go back, /usr/share/ word lists, yes, word lists /rocku.txt. This is a file that exists on your system. And if I click enter, mind you, I'm just going to click enter because this thing is going to take 50 million years to complete. I'm joking. But using this command, right? I know a lot of you now, when you try this, you are going to get it, deactivated, and you'll be like, oh, but Olivia, you told us that if it's deactivated, there's something wrong with this. Don't worry, I'm going to get to that in just 1 second. But let me just start it so you see what it looks like. If I click enter right now, you're going to see that it will start, it will begin, it will do so many things. But before it starts to show us what it's really doing, I'm going to open a new tab and show you exactly what might be going on for you if you tried doing this and it didn't work out for you. So let's CD. What's CD? Change directory. Let's change directory to that particular file /usr/share/word lists. Click enter. I'm going to ls, which is to list. And when we list it, I know for a lot of you are going to see this particular rocku.txt, and this rocku.txt is going to be rocku.txt.gz. With that rocku.txt.gz means, and it's red, I know it's going to be red. When you see it like that, you know, okay, wow, your system is, well, it is locked, it is zipped. That particular file is zipped, like how you have in your normal system when you zip up a file with WinRAR and then you have to go to WinRAR and then extract it. Over here, for you to unzip it so you can use it for the particular system you're going to use, you're going to do sudo gunzip rocku.txt.gz. When you do that, you click enter. I've already done this. When you do it, it's just going to, like, it's very quick, it's very easy, it doesn't take any time, doesn't take too much of your processor information. Once you do that, your rocku.txt will be open whenever you want to use it, right? And, well, you go through with the remaining parts of this information we're doing. Now, the thing with Rocku is that there's 14 million characters in Rocku. What does Rocku go through? It goes through vulnerable passwords. It's very likely maybe even your password is within this 14 14 million passwords that already exist, right? And let me even just see if I can grab some by just looking at it. I'm seeing Phoebe, Norman, 1258, Real Madrid. So these are passwords that were exploited a while back and were saved into a file called rockU.txt. And one thing about Kali Linux is that Kali Linux is a very good toolbox, right? A lot of exploited passwords exist, a lot of available information that is just publicly available already exists in the toolbox of Kali Linux. So this is going to take me 50 million years if I say let me, because look, after all this time that I've just been talking, it's not even reached 2000 out of 14 million. So I'm going to actually close this process because I have taken the time out to have gotten the password before this class. It took me too long, but I've been able to get the password before all of this, so I won't let us go through with that process fully. I'll just give you the password itself. The password you would get when you when you find cold password, it's in that rockU.txt, but it's going to take way too long for us to get through it. It's 9876543210. That's the password. 9876543210. That's the password, right? For C0LDD. So that's imagine in a case where, okay, it's trying to get the passwords over here, and then it comes out with, okay, code is this password, and we're like, oh, thank you so much, we really appreciate it, that's so nice of you. What do we do from there? We go back to our system, right? And remember, we saw a login page over here. Let's log in with that username and with that password. Now, if you want to go ahead and continue the process running, be my guest. However, I'm not interested in doing that within the time frame that we have for this class. So let's move on. C0LDD. C0LDD. You can copy it if you have it available to copy, but this is the username. And then for the password, I mentioned it is 9876543210. Then let's log in, see what we get. And good enough, I'm already seeing that this thing is loading. It's not telling me that there's any issue. So I'm confident that this has already been, this is actually the password for one. And I'm aware that we're all going through the same, path and channel and all these type of things. Let's just wait for us to be able to get access to the HTTP ports. Boom, beautiful. So now that we've been able to get access to the HTTP ports, because that's what we've done right now. We saw there were two open ports at the beginning of this lab. There was HTTP and then there was SSH, thank you, SSH. So we've been able to confidently be able to, have an access to the port 80. Port 80. So how do we get access to that other one? What we're going to do now is something called a reverse shell. I don't know if you have an idea of what a reverse shell is, but in a sense, a reverse shell is, I give you something. Have you ever heard the story of the Trojan horse? Right? They brought a gift, right, that they thought was for Athena, their goddess in their temple. They brought a gift into their house. I gave you a gift. I said, oh, take. You carry the gift into your house. You don't know that inside that gift is a bomb. Or if inside that gift is a tracking device. Or inside that gift is a microphone. You don't know. But you took my gift into your house. Remember our house with 26 doors. Now, mind you, there are a lot more ports than 26. So I don't know why I picked 26. I don't want anybody thinking that, oh, there's only 26 doors. There's a lot more ports. But imagine I don't even want to follow through that garden door. I want to follow through the main door. And I didn't even meet you at the main door. I saw you outside. How are you, Daniel? I just saw this thing. Come and take this gift. Give it to your mommy inside your house, or just take it. You're like, oh, thank you, mom. So glad. Thank you so much. You take the gifts. You enter into your house with that gift. Inside that gift is a tracker. Inside that gift is a microphone. Inside that gift is a camera. I can see, I can hear, I can do. In fact, inside that gift is a teleporter. Right? With that gift now, I feel enter your house. So that's what reverse shell is in a sense. What it is you collected something from outside that will give that outside person access into your inside. So that's what we want to do. And we want to copy a reverse shell into the system. But before that, let's just perform again reconnaissance. We just entered a new page. What we can even start off with, as I said, a rule of thumb is to view the page sources. Right? You can scroll down, even though I know there's nothing serious here, but I just want you to get into the habit of knowing that, okay, maybe some people might leave comments in their information there that's like, oh, hashtag password equals to, you know, like lots of the times it happens. It's more common than you would expect. You know, people that are creating these things are normal human beings that are just web developers, people who just know a little more information about web development, but they might still be vulnerable to a lot of cyber attacks. And you're a pen tester who's ready and able to go and exploit these things. So get in the habit of always doing that type of thing. So let's scroll through this page a bit. I might just move on to exactly where I know where we can do something, but I want to see if there's anything I can add information to, right? Because if I can add the information, it's basically me giving them the gifts. So I come here, I see add menu. I don't know if I want to add something here because I'm not entirely sure. How are you, the code in person? Mind you, we're signed up as code. I'm not entirely sure if we can save this as the type of file type I want to use. Right now, I want to use a PHP reverse shell, right? But before that, I kind of want to see, have an idea of what the system is like. I see media. Under media, I see library, add new. Okay, add new, that's a good sign. I mean, I can drop a file over here. So let's go back to our terminal and see even the file we want to add in the first place, right? We already checked this, so I'm just going to open a new terminal, a new tab rather. And I want to go back to where I was in the first place because currently we are in this /usr/share/word list, but I want to go back. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do CD shift tilde. Now, where is tilde? I know a lot of people are not very familiar with tilde because we don't use it very often, but tilde is the button right under escape. You do shift that button right under your escape, and all this is on the right and left hand side of your system. Shift tilde, enter. We're back in our space. We click clear. Let me just see something. Okay. Over here, I want us to copy a file that also exists in that /usr/share. And because I already know this system, I'm just going to save us the time of trying to find it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do CP. What does CP mean? Copy. CP, I mean, I've already done this before the class, so you can see what I've done before. /usr/share/web shells. Web shells /php. What does web shells mean? Reverse shells for different web services. There's definitely for HTML, there's definitely for some others, but I haven't really gone into it. I'm more versed in using PHP. Right? Now, you don't have to be proficient in PHP to be able to conveniently use this, but you are very much aware of the kind of things that reverse shells can do and how this particular PHP web shell can help you exploit our system. So I'm going to keep writing it PHP reverse shell .php, and I'll give it space. After finding the document I want to copy, I need to give it a location to be copied into. So I'm going to do /home/Kali. I've done this before, so it already exists in my /home/Kali, because /home/Kali is the same as this tilde location. But I'll still click enter and see what happens. Let's do ls to list this /home/Kali. See what we get. We see the file over here. If you try it out on your own, you should also be able to see this file available here. And from here now, the next thing we need is our IP address, right? Because let me open this real quick. You see where I'm going to. Let me first get my IP address and I'll show you why I needed to get my IP address. And if you remember at the beginning of the class, that was literally the first thing I mentioned, IP address, which is when we use IPA, right? Over here, we see our IP address is 192.168.1.19. I'm going to copy it, Ctrl-Shift-C. You only use Ctrl-Shift-C for your terminal. And one of the reasons why I know that this is working for me is because I see it as up over here. Some of them are down, but this Ethernet0 is up. So I know I can use the IP address that I just copied. What am I going to do next? I have two options. I can either open it or I can nano it. Now, nano will open it in your terminal. Open will open it as a Word, like a Word document as it is, right? I like the fact that I can open it with, Word documents. I wouldn't mind using Nano, but sometimes, especially because a lot of you are still very new with this, I would rather you didn't have, let me use Nano first so you can see what happens. Nano was named PHP. I'm just going to click tab so you can finish it up for me. PHP reverse shell. Enter. With this one now, you can't freely, like, it might be a bit difficult to freely scroll and do whatever you want to do. You might have to use your keyboard a couple of times to do stuff, and I don't want someone to mistakenly go and touch Control spoil. So I'll close it out using Control X. I would rather use open for this particular case and just use it the way I would normally use my text editor, the way I would normally use my Microsoft Word and stuff like that. So I'll just click enter. Let it open up. Boom. So we see it opened. Scroll down as normal. I can click it and I can, right click all of this. The thing with Nano is you can't do a lot of normal text editor functions. So I'll just cancel all of that out and paste this in. You can use normal Control V here because you're not using your terminal right now. I'll paste in my IP address in this portion. Let me add that in the portion where they said IP, right? So they said change this for IP, and then they also said change this for the port number. It is not necessary or anything to change the port number. You can leave the port number as is. You will just have to remember the number that is there for the port because we will be using it very soon. And with my port number, I see that we are using 1234. So I'm going to write that down as I normally would or should. 1234, so that when I want to use it, I would have, like, an idea of what this reverse shell is going to be calling back to on my system. So let's save it. We're going to do Control S. Because we've saved it now, we can close it as normal. I'll close it out. And we've changed the information. For us to check that information that we've already just changed, we can do cat. Now cat is just going to print it out as normal on our screen. We're not going to be able to edit it with cat like the way we were able to edit it with Nano or Open, but with cat we can see it right there. And then I'm just going to write PHP, click tab, and then it writes out the remaining information for me. I told you with cat you can't literally change the information, but we can see that the information we already changed is there, and then the port number that exists is there. Okay, so going back now, I actually want to, I would have, oh dear Lord, I should have even just copied this from the get-go. But before we copy it, before we copy the information there, what we would have liked to do is to upload the file over here. So we want to select the file in well, it's not in desktop, it's in Kali, right? Because desktop is there, documents is there, all of them are there in Kali, right? And we see even our PHP reverse shell is there in Kali, right? All of these things are being on the base level of the system, on our home level of the system, on our user rather level of the system. So I'll click this PHP shell and see whether I can, put it in the system. However, I get an error. They said this is not permitted due to security reasons. So I said, okay, no problem. You guys have enough security, but that's not going to discourage me. I'm a penetration tester. I'm going to keep going and keep seeing if there's any other way I can exploit you. And without further ado, you can continuously go through everything, but I'm not going to go through all of that because we know how the whole navigation thing works. So I'm not going to go to exactly where I know the exploits portion is. I'll go into appearance. And you might not think that, oh, in appearance, I would have an exploit available, because typically when you think appearance, you're thinking, oh, dark screen, light screen, those type of things. Yeah, that one's probably not available to be hacked. But let's keep going. If I go to appearance and I move down to editor, I see that there are a couple of PHP pages down here. I don't want to use something that would break the system, but I want to use something that might not be as important, but will still be pretty important. That will still be pretty important. So I'm gonna come over to this footer place here. If you've used any system before, any Microsoft Word system, the header and the footer does not break your system. If you put anything in your system on the header or the footer, it doesn't actually interact with what the content of your system is, just more information that could be there. So over at the footer, I want to take all of this out. But before I take all of this out, we're going to I want you to understand that this next portion of this is getting into the SSH part of this, because the moment I'm able to put the reverse shell here, because you can already see it here, the reverse shell implementation in PHP and blah 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 blah. From over here, we're getting into the shell portion of this class, and I would like us to take a 10 minutes break before we are able to get into that. It's already 3 o'clock. Class will be ending around 4. So before then, let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. So please be with us. In 10 minutes sharp, we'll be able to come back to the class. All right? Thank you very much. Maybe 15 minutes. So for those of us Okay, so we're back. We're back. I see a message here.
Welcome back from the short
Thank
break.
you. Thank you very much. All right. So yes, everything will be sent. Shivaraju. We would get everything to you at the ending of the class, but until then, let's just continue with what we're doing for now. All the slides, all the commands, all the like the whole process of how we were able to exploit this device, this virtual machine, will be sent to you at the ending of the class. So let's continue from where we stopped. Where did we stop? It's really for all of us who are doing this intentionally. After a while, your system kind of signs you out. Not signs you out, but just takes you back to a login page. Kind of like how your phone system times out after some time. So we just go back and click our password. Our password is Kali, in case you've forgotten. Boom. So we were at a place where we entered appearance over at our virtual machine. Over at our cold box login, and from here at appearance we were editor, and then over here we entered into footer. So with footer now, we see that this footer accepts PHP commands. So we already know that the reverse shell that we had earlier was a PHP one. So what I'm just going to do is just collect all of this, delete it, and go back to our, what was this? Okay, yes. Go back to our Kali and then go copy what we had before. So I'm going to open that reverse shell again. Open this again. All I'm going to do is just Control A, Control C, right? When I do Control A, Control C, again, this is text editor, Control A, Control C. We come here and we just paste that. Why do we paste that? Because we are now trying to enter into our system. When we paste that, we scroll down to the bottom, update the file. You see over here it's loaded. We've updated our file. But before we do anything else, if you remember earlier, we had saved our port number. Remember, it was 1234. We remember our port number. We'll come back here and then we're going to go to our terminal, and then let me even open a new one. Let me open a new port instance so that we have this thing up and running. Let me increase the size so you can see very well. I'm going to open a new what do they call this thing? A new tool that we'll be using. What's the name of this tool? Is called NC. NC, what's NC? NC is Netcat. Netcat is a listener to your device, to your system. Netcat is ready to create network connections and also be able to listen. So with this NC now, we're going to put in a few options, N, V, L, and P. Then we'll put in our port number. Let me explain what NVLP means. N is for numeric, we're letting this netcat know that we're looking for only numeric, only IP addresses, no DNS. Don't give me any google.com, don't give me any Facebook, give me only 192.168 or the V is for verbose. Be very clear on every single thing you are doing. L is for listen. Listen to what this particular port that I'm going to give you next is going to be doing. Listen to everything that's happening on this port. And then P is for ports. So then after that, we put the port number there. Click enter. Now it's listening. Now remember earlier, just right now even, we had updated our page. So let me duplicate this page. Duplicates. Let's duplicate, right click, duplicate. Let's see. Duplicate this page and then just go back to everything that we had prior to all this logging in and all that, all that. And one thing I want you to notice is when we are doing this, it's just loading. And if I leave it in, it will load forever. It will load forever. Why? Because trying to sign back into this particular instance of this page has given us a reverse shell. Why has given us a reverse shell? Because we said that we put the reverse shell at the footer of the page, the ending part of the page. Now let's go back to our terminal and see what we get. What do we have here? A dollar sign. This dollar sign here shows us that we are now using the shell aspects of our system. We are in the system. Right now, we are using SSH. We finished with HTTP. We are now into SSH. But one thing I want you to note is this line over here. It says bin sh0 can't access TTY, job control is turned off. Oh no. Let's be able to find a way that we can make sure that that job control is turned on. Because why? Job control and the TTY in general is a place where we can emulate a proper terminal setup, right? Beautiful. Well, how do we do that? We come back to our SSH. I'm so sorry. We come back to our browser, open up a new tab, and then we're going to spawn a TTY setup because they said that there's no TTY. They cannot access TTY. We're going to spawn a TTY. We spawn a TTY, and as we're spawning that TTY, we are spawning a TTY that's a teletype writing terminal interface that makes a shell behave like as if it's a normal terminal, like as if I'm using it for my own normal Wazoo. I say Wazoo. From my own normal, the other things we've been doing before. My own normal terminal. With this one, right? What do we see here? We see this Zakela.dev. Yes. I want you guys to click the Zakela.dev where it's doing spawning. Of course, there are other ones included, but this is the best to use right now, because we are going to use this to ensure that our terminal that we are currently involved in right now is working the way it ought to. So let's see as it loads up. Mind you, as I said, this thing will load forever. Why is it loading forever? Because we already have a reverse shell. We have been able to stop the system and say, hey, I'm in your system. Anything that is happening there, I'm getting information about it. Beautiful. And as we open this page now, I know all of you are able to see this, but we're seeing this particular information here. With this information, we can copy it, Ctrl-C, go back to our terminal, paste it, Ctrl-Shift-V. But I want to show you something real quick. If I click enter, it's going to tell me, no, you can't do that. Say Python isn't found because we're no longer using Python. We're using Python 3. So I'm going to open any of the other previous tabs and just paste it there. Ctrl-V, go back here and put Python 3. Now because it's Python 3, I can copy this and it's going to accept Python 3. So it's Ctrl-Shift-C. It's going to accept Python 3, but it's not going to accept Python. It doesn't understand Python. Ctrl-Shift-V. So you see the difference between the two is that 3 that's there. Enter. And it works. And that's one thing you need to know about all these cybersecurity things a lot of the time. No information is good information. Right? If there's an error, it will tell you there's an error. It will not stop to tell you there's an error. but no information is good information. Y'all on the meet are like you're listening to me back. So from here, now that we've pasted that, we know that we have job control turned on. We have an access to the system. And now let's check what's even in the system. Let's do ls. Let's see where we are. Oh, we are on our main system. We're on the, well, not beautiful, we're at the base, right? We're at the base. And what we typically do with base is to start looking into home, because home is where, remember when I was telling you all about tilde, that's that this thing over here. This is called tilde. This thing over here, that's home. So let's enter into home and see what we find. cd home. cd home. Let's do ls. And when we see cd home, we are in a folder. We see a folder that exists here. Code. Okay. Sorry. Well, very, very determinants, what's it called, terminal space. So any action I press that is not a keyboard function would just some kind of commands. Anyways, so code, let's do cd code. Let's enter that code, C0LDD. Now I don't want you people to be saying CO. It's not CO, it's C0. C0LDD. We're in that place. Let's do ls. Let's see what we see. We see user.txt. And let's enter it the same way we had done previously, where we opened it with cat user.txt. They said permission denied. Okay, no problem. But why is that permission denied? Let's find out why. Let's do who am I. Let's find out who we are currently on this system that they are not allowing me to do this thing. You understand? Because what do you mean I can't enter this particular file? What do we have here? We have www-data. With this information now, www-data typically tells you that you have the lowest level of information you can possibly get, right? You are not currently a user. You can get information about www-data, but you are not currently a user. So what do? It is time to start escalating our privileges, escalating the information we can get. This is where a lot of people are most excited. If anything, me, I'm most excited about this type of thing. Whenever I can escalate privilege, lateral movements, because these are some concepts you would find when you are talking more about penetration testing, because you're like, okay, yes, this, that, and third. I can do this, I can do that. Beautiful. So what do we do from here? Because I'm www-data, I can cd into a particular file called /var/www. If I enter into this file, what do I see? Let's do ls. Oh, we see HTML. Let's enter and see what we see. cd HTML. I already told you what cd is, change directory. So now that we've entered HTML, let's do ls. What do we see here? There's a lot of information. Do you remember that hidden that we saw earlier? We saw hidden here. We saw index. And if you remember, we saw a lot of WP, but it's not all these WP that we saw before. So let's look into it a bit. I see information about a lot of things. See login, contents. But more importantly, I see wp-config.php. That's quite important. Config. What's config? Configuration. Let's enter that file. So let's cut it. Cut wp, sorry, IP, wp dash config dot php. Right? From here, we see a lot of information. Okay, let me start from the beginning. Oopsie. Let me start from the beginning. From scrolling through, I see it's even a PHP file, just PHP. See a PHP file. I'll go down a bit. I see my SQL database username, code. Okay. And from here, I see my SQL database password, cybersecurity. This is the only password in this particular file. Let's hold on to this password. So what I'll do now is I'll copy this password. Ctrl-Shift-C. Scroll down a bit. Am I seeing anything else? No. But I did see this username and this password. Okay, beautiful. With that now, I think I can go back to that user.txt and be able to access it. If I can use that password and use the username I already know to access codes, login data. Because right now I'm www dash what do you call that thing? Dash data. Beautiful. So what do I do? All right. I'm gonna do sudo -l, right? Oh, sorry, because God, I knew I was going to do this at least once. Sorry, I made a mistake. That was my fault. Thank you very much. Ctrl C. That was a mistake on my part. I shouldn't have done that. Ctrl L. But listening back, let's go back. I just want to repeat the same steps we had done before. Let me close this out. Same steps we have done before. 192.168.18, enter. It's not going to be able to enter because we have changed the footer of this page. Back here. And I have the password. And with that password now, what I want to do is SU rather. So as now, you're not supposed to make the same mistake as I am, right? So after you are here, instead of sudo -l, what you're supposed to do is SU C0LDD. Must be run from terminal. I need to turn on job control again. No, I already did it before. I'm so sorry, just give me 1 second so that I can get this thing running back as it should be. Ctrl-Shift-C. Back to our terminal. Ctrl-Shift-E. Now we can do SU C0LDD. Mind you, from here I should have written SU C0LDD. I did this by mistake. I'm so sorry about that. But this is what you should have written instead of this so that you just continue with your processing. And when you write that now, remember we had gotten a password earlier from this document. And what was that password? That password was cybersecurity. You can type it as you want. I already copied something earlier, so I'm going to write cybersecurity. Nope. Security. Is that spelled correct? Security. Alright. So let's click enter. And now I want you to notice a difference. Earlier we had just a dollar sign. Now we have that cold box dash easy, then our dollar sign. That shows us that we now have a more privileged escalation to a new user. And how do we know that? What we have currently done is lateral movement. It's a term in cybersecurity where from where you have moved on to a different place, to a different user, to a different person. You found someone else's information, move there. From that SU-code, we pasted the password, and I just want to really be sure that I really am a new user right now. So I'm going to do who am I? Who am I? Right now, I am cold. Before we saw www-data. Beautiful. So there now, let's ls, so we see where we are. We are at home. So let's enter back into home. Just the same way we had done before. cd home, cd home, okay, ls, cd cold, ldd, ls. We still see our user.txt as we had before. What do we do now? We can do our cat, because now this is something that we think we should be able to open because we are a user that is available to use this information. User.txt, enter. Information comes out, right? The thing now I want you to be focused on is this last two equals to. Those two let me know that this is a base 64 encoding information, right? And I can copy it and decode it. So what do? I'll copy this information, Control Shift C. I'm going to open a new terminal to do this. Right? Make it bigger so you can all see me. Control Shift V. Sorry, before I even do that, let's start writing the command so that we can have exactly what we're trying to do. What we're going to do is echo, put in brackets the information, which is Control Shift V, close those, like single quotes. I said brackets by mistake, but single quotes. We're going to use the pipe command. Pipe is on your right hand side of your computer. Pipe command. So whatever information we can get from this thing, we're going to put it in a base 64, info, putting a -d so that it can decode the information. Click enter, and then it gives us information. However, I genuinely don't understand this language, but I can tell it has been decoded. Control Shift C. I can tell it has been decoded. So what am I going to do? I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to do, let's look for translates. Let's be able to translate what we just got right now. Let's translate that. Paste it over here. Control V. Did I copy the whole thing? Let me just right click, copy selection. See, I pasted this. Pasted the whole thing. Beautiful. What do we get? We said, congratulations, the first level has been completed. But it was in Spanish. So I had to go translate it to be able to get the whole thing. Okay, I know what it means because I do read Spanish, but I wanted you all to be able to understand that sometimes things don't come as clearly as they say. Because fair enough, we got this information from a document. Documents, we could have found a way to copy it, but it's not as clear. Like they're not just going to tell you congratulations, let's be completed just because you found the document. They're going to have you do some other things to be able to get that information. So we had to go, find out how we can enter the documents, and now that we've gotten documents even in Spanish, we have to go and translate it. Beautiful. So let's move on. Now that we've gotten the first flag, we want to now find out other privileges that we can have. So let's go back. Let's go back. This is where that sudo-l comes in, right? So sudo-l, click enter. What's the password for cold? The same way we had found it before, cyber security. Cyber security. Click enter. So we see that for root information, we can either use USR bin-vim, bin change mode, bin FTP. I want to use the first one. Preference. I could use the first one, get an issue, come back again, use the second one, find more information, use the third one. But I just want to start with the first one. If the first one gives me all the information I need, why must I use the second and third? So we see that root access might be in one of these files. And with that information noted, we want to go and find out how we can get this, get the information from here from. So we go back into our browser, we open a new tab. What are we going to do? Hi, sorry, I want to make sure that you guys on the Meet are with me. Please give me a thumbs up or something of the wise. Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to check for now is a bit different from the way we did it before, but you would see how different things can give you more information. So what we're going to check, gtfobins.org, gtfobins. Let me even remove the .org so that you can see where we're getting it from. gtfobins. Over here we have .org, gtfobins.org. Click this. Okay, so we're here. And if you remember back here, what we were able to get is USR bin Vim. So that means Vim is the most important thing to me. I'll go back here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter for Vim. Give me all the information you can give me about Vim. Oh, no, sorry. I mistakenly clicked on Vim. Vim. This is what we need right now. Okay. And remember, we need sudo access. And sudo access is well, it's access from the super user. Do you understand? The super user, and that's what we want right now. So what we are looking for. So how are we going to be able to get that? We need a particular command that can give us that. But I already know the command. Yeah, because I know going through these things can be very stressful, right? I already know the command. So I'm going to take us through what we can find on GTFO bins, and then I'm going to give you the actual command that we actually want to get, just so that everybody's on the same page. We need sudo command. We need super user command. So this is on privilege. I see sudo over here. They're giving us examples of things we can use. I'm seeing vim-c information over in quotation marks. I scroll down a bit, I see vim-c information again in quotation marks, but this one is under inheritance. Let's see what happens if we get sudo, we get another type. There's a lot more. This one is Lua, but I'm looking more into this, right? But this isn't the exact information I want. The exact information I want, I've gone ahead and search the GTFO bins. A lot of the information you would need is here, but finding it directly after their recent updates on their system is a bit difficult. So what I'm going to do is to search for something a little bit different. GTFO bins, GTFO bins. I don't want to say what the actual meaning of GTFO means, but it's a bit vulgar. GTFO Vim shell, because we're using a shell command, but it means get the F out. We're using a shell command. I'm going to go down, open it a bit to see if it's exactly what I need. This is the one I want. I wish it came with the sudo command prefacing it, but this is the exact one I want. Alternative command execution. It's not showing right now in the system because they've updated it very recently, and it's a bit hard to navigate. But GTFO should be one of your very close friends because there's a lot of shell commands and some other commands that you would find there, doing commands that you find there that would be very, very helpful to you. However, this is the exact one I need. So what am I going to do? I'm going to copy it, Ctrl+Shift+C. This alternative command execution. Come back here. So I'm going to do the sudo privileges. Sudo. It didn't copy, sorry. It didn't copy. I'll go back. Oh, sorry. I'm the one I made a mistake. Ctrl+C, no Ctrl+Shift+C. And here we do Ctrl+Shift+C, Ctrl+Shift+D. So what we have over here is sudo vim-c quotation marks colon exclamation mark /bin/sh. If I click enter, it does a little bit of things, and then it gives us this bin shell, and this has given us an exploit once again into our system. We've gone through quite a couple of exploits so far, and with these exploits now we have a hashtag. Earlier we saw a $sign, now we're seeing a hashtag. That's a bit different. So let's find out what's different. Who am I? I'm root. Root is basically like the base of your system. Is who everybody wants to be but can't be. Do you understand? Root is like the diva of the whole system. It's who everybody wants to be but cannot be. So now that I'm in root, let's do ls. Let's find out where we are. We are currently where we were before, which was in user.txt. So let's move back a bit. cd slash, let's do ls. We're back to that whole page where we saw home that we were able to enter into. But now we're not entering into home. Where do we want to enter into? We want to enter into root. Root. What we're going to do, see root over here. What we're going to do now is cd root. I only did it like step by step because I want you guys to all see it clearly, but you could also have done cd/root straight up, right? But yeah, cd root. Let's do ls. What's in root? We see a root.txt. Let's do that. Let's see cat root.txt. And we see another funny code as we did before, but this one only has 1 equal to, as compared to the other one that had 2. But regardless, let's collect this information. Control Shift C. What do we do now? We'll go back to our browser, and I want to introduce you to somebody new. What we're going to look at, we're going to search base 64 decoder. Different words. Base 64 decoder. Yeah, I hope I spelled that properly. Sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses, so like I've literally been working on very low info what I'm writing. Okay, yes, base 64 decoder. Okay. And this one that says here base64decoder.org, I particularly like it. There are other ones that will still work out for what you're doing, but at the same time, you want to just go with what someone else has recommended so you don't go and download the virus. And remember, our reverse shell is still up and running up here. So I'm just going to click this. Remember, we've copied that information that we got from the other space. I'm going to come here. I'm going to paste that. Yeah. I'm going to just scroll down a bit, decode it, and see what we get. It doesn't take too long to decode. Thankfully, it's not a very hard one. Over here, we see Felicidades, Maquinha completada. It's giving, we completed it, but yes, Control C. Let's go back to our translate page. Find out what that means, because in as much as I'm versed in Spanish, I want to know what that means too. Paste that. Let's see what they said. They said, congratulations, the machine is complete. So with that, we've been able to successfully get all the information we can get from, from Codebox. If you can remember, we started off by getting the IP address. From there, we were able to, like I'm just taking you through a small recap. We were able to get the IP address, able to find out the open ports, able to find out what is even powering this system using its port 80, which is the HTTP port. We scanned that web service that was using it, which is WordPress. We scanned it. With scanning it, we were able to find information about it, even though the information wasn't exactly useful initially. We were able to also scan the IP address itself, go through whatever pages are in that particular IP. We found hidden using POF, right? When we were fuzzing the IP address. With that now, we found a page called hidden page. So we found a hidden page. The hidden page, we found 3 possible users. From there, we went back again and looked at the major user that seemed most likely to be with higher privileges than the others, which was cold. With the cold, we found out its username. We found a way to guess its password, right, using the rockyou.txt. However, I stopped very abruptly because if we decided to go too far into it, we don't have all the time for it during our class, right? But we found out that information and we were able to enumerate with it. Told you the password is 987654321. With that password, we then sorry, let me just stand up so you can see me. With that password, we were able to move on to exploiting its websites, which is, it wasn't really an exploit. We have the password, we have the username, we went in, we logged in, we put in the reverse shell. After the reverse shell, we were able to have a foothold into the system, just as you mentioned before. Having a foothold then gave us access to www.data, who we were. We found a way to get information using /var/www. We were also able to get another password in that file. And within getting that password, just cybersecurity, within getting that password, we then decided, okay, fine, let's escalate our privileges to a new user, which was cold. It's in that password again. We're able to access the user.txt. With user.txt, we were able to get information about the fact that we've gotten the first flag, and then we decided, okay, fine, let's look for how we can even become root, which is the root user, the main user, like he's the main person in charge of the system. And after we got the root user, we found a way to get a system. So I said a system, a file that was available only to the root user. We copied the file, translated the file, well, decoded the file, translated the file, and then we were able to complete our machine all together. So I hope you have all been able to follow with the class one way or the other. It has definitely been recorded. We would be learning a new set of things entirely on Wednesday. So yes, even if something is not entirely clear, go back to the videos, go back to the classroom, go back to the slides, go back to the step-by-step process that will be sent at the ending of the class, and fully go through whatever you can. I want you to be able to fully understand it. And if you have any more questions, please give information on the WhatsApp group chats, all of that. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a comment down below. What was the most impactful part of the class to you? And also like the video, please, very much. Thank you. Also for